So let's take a look here at real covenants and equitable servitudes. So when I was in school, I know I had a hard time differentiating between the two. So hopefully my little example here makes it a little easier. So the way I look at it, you have real covenants noted here by RC and equitable servitudes by ES. And real covenants, I've always seen them as money damages. And then equitable servitudes are injunctions. So if you can keep, let me say injunctions. If you can keep these straight, that'll be a lot of, I think a lot of, they'll save you from doing a lot of hurdles right away. In looking to the injunctions, there's basically two aspects here. The first being irreparable harm, I'm just going to say IR, and two, success in the merits, SOM. So both of these have similar elements. So if you're on an exam question and you're stuck, start writing down the things that you know both of them have. So they both require intent. So I'm going to write down one, intent. And they both need to, I'm going to say 3. Now it's a little confusing here, but bear with me here. I'll explain in a second. Touch and concern. T plus C, T plus C. They both require intent, and they both require that it touch and concern the land. The difference here, so I'm going to go 2 now. The difference is that sometimes there requires some privity of estate. So POE. Sometimes for real covenants, and then for equitable servitudes, there must be notice. And that can be actual or constructive. So now let me just apply what we just went over here in an example. Hopefully that'll be a little easier to understand. You can see some application. Let's go ahead here and look at a quick example. So let's say there's 2 lots here, and the lots have the same restriction in their deed. Maybe it's because they're on the water or something. So let's say lot 1, lot 2, and the deed says something along the lines of no homes over 2 stories. Let's say in our example here, the second lot is sold from A to C, and B owns this. If C decides to go ahead then and build a hotel, so C hotel, that's over 2 stories, B can choose to see if it wants to enforce a real covenant or equitable servitude. And then it's just a matter of, like I said earlier, money damages or an injunction. So maybe C hasn't built it yet. He plans on building a hotel. He wants to enjoin that. So we're going to look right away at the elements, and we're going to look at 1 and 2, like we mentioned earlier. And I'm just going to write them right here underneath, real and equitable servitudes. The first one being intent, and the third being touch and concern. All right, we know there's intent. It's evidenced by the deed, and we know it touches and concerns the land. So now, if we have a real covenant, we have to show privy, and let's say PE and POE. And then for equitable servitude, we have to show actual or constructive notice. So in this case, whether there's actual notice, there's constructive notice. So I'm just going to draw an arrow here and say constructive. And why is that? That's because you have, I'm going to try to do it in red, constructive notice in the deed, assuming that it was filed. Now, I don't think that's going to come up, but we're just going to assume that it's filed. So there's definitely constructive notice on the record and the deed that there's no homes over 2 stories. And that's